All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to episode number 25 of the Armchair Armdrager Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ben Hersick. Now, this week, there's no change. I'm recording this now. It'll be out Friday. Next week will be a little different. I am going on a trip to Washington, D.C. We leave on Wednesday. Normally, I record these on Thursdays. So, there's going to be a bit of a change. I'll record next week's on Tuesday, so I won't have anything AEW, NXT, anything related to that. I say that, but that's kind of the topic I have next week. But as far as like up-to-date information, win-loss records, and whatnot, I won't have any of that available. So just a little heads up for that. This week, I have maybe a shorter one, kind of trying to do something not related to the Saudi Arabia show, because I really don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'll just say I'm not a fan and move on. So, the thing is with this week, it's an interesting topic. It's something I kind of wanted to tackle for a little while now. And it's my opinion on face versus heels in pro wrestling. And how some companies do it well and some companies just don't do it at all. Don't do it right, don't do it at all, or some weird in between. But first, always, as I start these episodes, you can follow myself on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. You can follow All Things Combat, which is a website that I write for where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA over at Things Combat. The two of us, myself and Token, we are actually starting our end of the year lists. We're starting to kind of formulate that and fine tune them. And I'll say this now: I have 5 in the works. I have Best Men's Wrestlers of 2019, Best Women's Wrestlers of 2019, Best Tag Teams of 2019, and the first 3 are top 10. So top 10 men's wrestlers, top 10 women's wrestlers, and top 10 tag teams. I also have the top 5. As of right now, it's 5 disappointments. One of my coworkers gave me a brilliant idea for the last one, so I'm very happy with that. I am also doing the top 10 comeback years. So wrestlers that had a bad year the year before, wrestlers that had a bad year in 2018, who had a fantastic year in 2019. Those wrestlers. Whereas Token, right now, he's working on top 10 pay-per-views of the year, top 10 matches of the year, and top 10 moments of the year. And I also recommended that he does top 10 or 5 breakout stars of the year and top 10 or 5 surprises. We'll see how many we actually do. If you guys have any recommendations at all for people who should be on those lists, leave a comment in this video, leave a comment about it on Twitter, leave a comment. You can direct message me on Twitter about it. My DMs are open, I think. If not, I'll go fix that. Leave any comment about that, and I'll definitely, if it's for one of Token's lists, I'll send it over to him. That's all for All Things Combat. And I'm also working on 2 other kind of interesting things I want to try and do. To see how well of a booker I kind of could be in pro wrestling. I'll explain that when those articles get up. I'm shooting for mid-November for both of them. But that's that. Also, these get longer and longer every time I do them. I'm also the sports editor over at The Cauldron at Cleveland State, which is a student-run newspaper. Our most recent issue just went to print. I have an article about how the Cleveland State men's soccer team is in contention for the conference title. A link to that will be in the description below. And like I said, you can also follow them on Twitter at CSU Cauldron. Okay, 3 minutes in and I'm getting ready to start with some actual topics. The numbers are out for AEW and NXT this week. Both dropped, and it almost seems like NXT is starting to kind of level off. It seems like roughly right now it's like a little over 600,000, I believe, people watching that compared to the 900,000 that watched AEW. And I was reading through like some people's thoughts on Twitter. One person, I believe it was UTT Rob, he said that he thinks AEW could be down below 500,000 come Christmas. Now, according to, the actual calendar for the year, Christmas does happen to fall on a Wednesday. I'm pretty sure AEW will tape an episode. Same with NXT. They're not going to want their wrestlers to work on Christmas, which is honestly fair enough, and I completely understand that. So it'll be interesting to see what those ratings are actually even like, because we won't be having coverage. It'll probably be on our Christmas break at that point. I hope we're on a Christmas break at Christmas. There's gonna be a drop always, and you're starting to see that with AEW. It started off really high. This is the first week in week 4. This is the first one under 1 million viewers. I'm curious to see how far down it does go, and I'm curious after the actions on NXT if NXT starts to rise up a little bit. Also, it's annoying because I believe these are just the American numbers. I think. I'm not 100% sure. Of course, it comes on at a bad hour in general for the UK and Japan and all that. Well, maybe not Japan. It might just come on a weird time of day, like maybe like 7 a.m. I'm trying to do that math in my head, and I really don't want to. It'll give me a headache. But you look at it, if it's just the American numbers, that's interesting. And it shows that America is interested in both of them, because that averages to almost... It's a bit under 2 million off the top of my head, which will be very interesting to see here in a couple weeks, especially as we get closer to Full Gear and War Games, how those numbers kind of look. And it's also going to be interesting because of the fact that right now we don't really know too much about the War Games show itself. I know I made a prediction card. I didn't put the tag team titles on there because of the fact that I had 5 matches, and takeovers are usually 5 matches. I'm trying to think of what matches we know for Full Gear. We know Cody versus Jericho for the AEW title. We know Kenny versus Moxley. We know the Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz. I think that's really it. That's a 3-match card right now. To be fair, it's two interesting matches, and then the Young Bucks. I just say that because I'm a Young Bucks hater. I don't hate the Young Bucks. I think they're really good. They're just not my personal cup of tea. It's 3 compelling matches that have storylines, and this is kind of the topic for next week. I don't want to dive too deep into it. But right now, my predicted NXT card is North American Championship, Roderick Strong versus one of 16 possible guys. It could be Swerve, it could be Jordan Miles, it could be Velveteen Dream, Dijakovic, Keith Lee, half of the rest of the mid-card, Damian Priest, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Cameron Grimes, Matt Riddle. There's 10 right there, possibly. I have the Women's Championship being Shayna Baszler versus Rhea Ripley. Almost forgot her name. I have Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano, and I'll kind of discuss that here in a minute. I have the NXT Championship, Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa. And then I have War Games. Now, War Games is kind of hard to figure out because at first it was like you saw Undisputed Era on one side and you saw Ciampa, Gargano, and Balor on the other side. And I'm sitting there like, okay, who's the fourth man? And in my head, because I think he's going to be in WWE at some point here soon, I was saying Sonata. It's not Sonata. Finn Balor turned heel. So, as of right now, we don't really have a War Games match, which got me to thinking, what if we do a first time ever? You know, at WWE, yes, NXT falls into that category, love doing their first time evers. What if we do the first ever women's War Games match? Now, it's kind of interesting because the sides are kind of there if you make the comparison and the parallels and all that. For the 1-4 women's side would be Team Kick, Dakota Kai, and Tegan Knox, along with Candice LeRae and Mia Yim, possibly. The fourth spot is kind of the question mark spot to me. It could be Mia. They could save Rhea for the TakeOver Tampa Bay weekend. I'm still going to call it TakeOver Tampa Bay because I think that's the one TakeOver that's not going to change. That's going to be a for sure TakeOver weekend. It could be Rhea. It could be Mia. It could be, I don't know, Xia Li. I don't think Xia Li's really ready for something like that yet. But right now, I think safe money would be on Mia Yim because Mia does have a friendship with Kai and Knox and LeRae too. So it would make sense. Against the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Io Shirai and Bianca Belair. Now, of those three, Belair kind of is not in the same group because you have 3 of the best Joshi superstars in NXT or in WWE right now. And Bianca Belair is one of the best athletes, yes, but she's not a Joshi. Is that a problem? No, I would be totally fine with it because it seems like there's some sort of alliance, or just happenstance that Belair helped, or Shirai helped Belair at NXT on Wednesday. Now, it'll be interesting because if that match happens, I'm not sure how it would work for Nox and Kai, simply because they're both coming back from major injuries. I believe they actually both had ACL tears. Nox had a lot more wrong than just an ACL tear. I believe the MCL was torn. I believe dislocated kneecap. PCL, I think, was in there too. So there was a lot wrong with that knee, and thankfully it's fixed, it seems. It would be very interesting to see them in such a big match and such a dangerous match, to be fair. But that's still about a month away, roughly. I want to focus on what the topic of this episode is going to be, and that's the face-heel dynamic in pro wrestling. The reason I want to talk about this, I believe that you look at the wrestling world nowadays, just in general, look at every single place. I don't care if it's WWE, New Japan, AEW, Ring of Honor, local places, AIW here in Cleveland, anywhere you can think of pro wrestling. Who is a true heel? The easy answer to me, there's a couple people that come to mind. Baron Corbin, Jay White, not the rest of Bullet Club, because you do sometimes hear a spattering of cheers for Bullet Club, but mostly Jay White. Jay White's a definite heel. And Suzuki-gun are the three that I can name off the top of my head. MJF, and then everyone's like, MJF, I'm like, he seems like a bit of a tweener right now. Because he's aligned himself with Cody, who's a face, but MJF's a heel, but you still hear a ton of people cheering MJF. So you don't really know where his allegiance lies with what his face heel role is, to me at least. I look at it as there's so many good pro wrestlers that we just want to cheer our favorites. It doesn't matter if they're a heel or if they're a face. We just want to cheer them. And that's what I think makes things interesting. Because nowadays you look at it, there's no real, this person's an obvious bad guy, this person's an obvious good guy. There's none of that. And it's very, very interesting to me about that. When I grew up, that's the right word, right? Yeah. When I grew up, there was a clear divide. You were a good guy or you were a bad guy. And now, not even 10 years later, almost 10 years, it's gone. There's no real divide. You see people cheer Rey Mysterio. He's going against Andrade, and people cheer Andrade. It's like, no, you're supposed to boo him, but he's so damn good, and you can't boo him, and I totally understand that. There's a reason, if I buy wrestling shirts, I probably buy heel shirts, because heels, the quote-unquote heels, are just the better overall guys. And sometimes heels make valid points, which heels these days are not supposed to do. Heels are supposed to be dicks and take every cheating, conniving little way out of matches. But I look at it, it shows the change of the wrestling world. Where at first, and it shows kind of the maturity of the audience now, where a lot of us back in the day were like, that person's a good guy, that person's a bad guy. Done. Set in stone. Next. Nowadays we look at it, and we look at stuff like work rate. We look at stuff like performances in high-pressure situations. We look at how good they are in the match itself. We don't just look at character work anymore. And a lot of times, character work goes to the wayside. The best example I can think of, look at NXT. And specifically, Dominik Dijakovic. What is his character? If you ask me, I couldn't tell you. He's a big guy who's very good in the ring, yes, but there's some sort of family thing going on in the background, some sort of like tradition or bloodline or something like along those lines, where you look at it, it's like, this can make sense, but it doesn't work right now. You can't just like start off with, my family has a lot riding on this match. Where's the rest of the story? Where's the rest of the information for this? We just know you're a good wrestler. We don't know anything about a character for you right now. One of the people who's actually a good character these days is, and everybody hates him online, it's Baron Corbin. That guy is a dick, and he knows he's a dick, and he loves the fact that people know that. He is one of the few guys who he can do the character work and he can do the pro wrestling work. He's really, really good in the ring, especially for somebody who I believe is in his, off the top of my head, like his 5th year as a pro wrestler. This guy can be something. He's going to be something. You just have to wait and be patient. Is he ever going to have a face turn? Who knows? Maybe. But right now, it's just not in the cards. But his character work makes you want to hate him. It's not the fact that he sucks in the ring, because he's really good. Is he one of the, like I said this to somebody else, is he somebody who's going to put on a 5-star technical classic? No. He's not going to be in there doing somersault planchas and tope con helos, even though Keith Lee did a phenomenal one on NXT. He's not going to be somebody doing all these high-risk, flashy moves. He's somebody who's not going to put on 5-star matches. He's willing to grind out a good 3-star match. He doesn't care about star ratings. He doesn't care about all the extra little stuff and all the extra little panache and stuff. He cares about putting on a good match, and he cares about doing the best that he can and improving every single time he goes out there, which you can see. He's improved dramatically this past year even. Every single year that goes by, Baron Corbin is getting better. The next time you see Baron Corbin on SmackDown, yes, he's on SmackDown now. Yeah, he is. Wait. Yes, he is. Still getting used to these new rosters, too. The next time you see Baron Corbin wrestle a match on SmackDown, don't boo or don't, like, just pay no attention. Watch the match. He's good. And he can be not the best. It's tough because he's not really a big guy. He's kind of in the same mold as Dijakovic, where they're both pretty tall, decent, average weight, kind of, I guess, for that height, and pretty agile for somebody their height, and just good in the ring. Actually sit down and watch Baron Corbin wrestle. Your opinion can easily change. But he's like the one guy in WWE that has a character where you want to hate him. Adam Cole comes out and gets cheered like crazy. Everyone does the boom and the Adam Cole baby. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy seeing it. But he's supposed to be a heel. Why are you cheering the heel? You look at the face-heel dynamic, and a lot of the times the line gets a little blurred. The one company that does it the best, that I've seen at least, a couple of the companies could probably do it, a lot of companies might do it for all I know, but the one company that does it the best, New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the specific stable I want to focus on, Los Ingobernables de Japón. As some of you might know, these are my boys. I first saw New Japan Pro Wrestling and I saw LIJ and I'm like, I like them. And Sonata, as a lot of you can probably realize and heard me say plenty of times, is maybe my favorite wrestler going right now. He's somebody who, and here the whole stable in general too, is somebody you can look at and say, they're all so different and so unique that they all work together perfectly. Evil's not going to put on a master grappling match. Tetsuya Naito can, but he won't. Shingo can, but he won't. Bushi won't. Hiromu won't. Sonata can. Evil's going to ground and pound you. Shingo's just going to outmuscle you. Naito is going to put on a high move type match. A very impactful offense, I guess is the best way to say it. Bushi is, for a junior heavyweight, Bushi is slow and methodical. And Hiromu's just all over the place. That stable is set perfectly. They can play the face or the heel role, and it doesn't matter that they're switching between the roles. You put them against Suzuki-gun, and they get cheered because Suzuki-gun is, like I said, one of the few actual heels in pro wrestling. Whereas put them against Chaos, it depends on the situation and how the story started. For example, I believe before Wrestle Kingdom 12, you had Okada and Naito is like trying to climb back up the mountain to finally get to that IWGP Heavyweight Championship again, and the fans want to see him do it. Okada just says no and beats him in a 40-plus minute match. Then there's another instance recently where LIJ attacked Chaos, and they were the heels. They can go back and forth so fluidly and so smoothly that it's almost an unbelievable balance they've kind of achieved. And you can see it across the board in New Japan. When we get to Wrestle Kingdom 14 and we have Okada versus Ibushi, watch that match and listen to who gets more cheers. Right now, we're a couple months out. I will say Kota Ibushi is going to be the one getting cheered because they want to see him do it finally. They want to see him become the number one guy in the company. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I'm probably going to watch World Tag League and get all caught up through that whole thing and understand the storylines and the plot threads going forward into Wrestle Kingdom. Very excited for it too. First actual World Tag League I'll be paying attention to, which is very fun for me. This is a company that shows you how to do the face-heel dynamic right and how to be super fluid with it. It doesn't matter that the fans can cheer and boo Naito at the same time or the entirety of LIJ. What matters is they put on good matches, and depending on the situation, their characters can play to that. They can play to the face of the heel role. When, in the specific move I can think of, it's not even really a move, it's just a dick thing to do, is when Naito spits in the face of his opponent. When it's against somebody like Okada and LIJ's been booked as the heels throughout the whole rivalry, he gets booed. But if it's in the face of Minoru Suzuki, he gets cheered. That's the perfect example. That's something that a lot of companies should focus on, is that balance. A lot of them don't have it. Look at WWE. It gets criticized for how many times it's turned Big Show face and heel. I think the record is like 20 some odd. At least the last time I checked. And WWE kind of has the thing where it's like, you're in the mentality, somebody's a good guy, somebody's a bad guy. Like, look at the Brock Lesnar-Cain Velasquez match we're getting in Saudi Arabia. Brock is clearly the bad guy, and Kane is clearly the good guy. It's that simple. It's cookie cutter, and it works to the most degree. It works most of the time, and that's understandable. But I look at it, if you want to have that fluidity, you have to kind of work for it. You kind of have to show, like, we want to make this work. We want to have a fluidity between face and heel dynamic. And it's important to have that face-heel dynamic still in pro wrestling because you kind of need to have a narrative for storylines. And storylines are a very interesting topic because sometimes you can just, like, look at a card and be like, oh, they were just put that guy together and that guy together. Most recent example, Hell in a Cell. You get some good matches like, what was the Hell in a Cell show? You had some good matches like Randy Orton versus Ali. You had some storyline matches like Bryan and Roman versus Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Rollins versus The Fiend. Eesh. There was a couple other storyline matches in there. Becky versus Sasha. Bayley versus Charlotte. I guess that's one thing I kind of want to address here at some point. Maybe her next reign, I'll talk about it. I think you guys kind of can see what's possibly happening here. At some point, I want to talk about Charlotte and her reigns. That might be a topic next week. I don't know. But what's important is with a storyline going forward, you have to, storyline progression, you have to have somebody who's clearly in the right and clearly in the wrong. That moral gray area you kind of don't want to have in pro wrestling because it's like, well, you can see it one way and see it the other. No, you have to have one or the other, at least in my opinion. And if you have that, then you have my attention in the storyline. I want to talk, the reason this kind of like idea came into my head last night, I was watching NXT, and Finn Balor turned heel. And I said it, I think, really well on Twitter for All Things Combat. Finn Balor did not join Undisputed Era. He didn't throw up the UE that they were doing in the ring. He threw up his finger guns. Like his actual, not like the cool person snap and like, yeah. His like laser target finger guns, where he's like, it's a thing he used to do in New Japan, okay? That's the best way I can describe it. Finn Balor did not join Undisputed Era. Prince Devitt is back. And that is something I am very happy to see. Finn Balor is someone who's kind of floundered around as a babyface since being called up. He was fantastic as a face in NXT. You put him against the likes of Samoa Joe, some other people probably that I'm forgetting, Kevin Owens. He probably had a couple other title defenses in there somewhere against heels. Babyface Finn Balor worked then. Since the call-up, it's kind of been lackluster. It's kind of the same with Shinsuke, and Shinsuke's heel turn was done well initially, and he's kind of stumbled and bumbled around recently. I really hope they can find a way to right the ship and get him that WWE Championship run he deserves. I say he deserves it because he's so damn good. But I look at it, this is what Finn Balor needed, because after, God, how long was he on the main roster? It was 2016 when he was drafted. And his face stuff worked against Roman on his first Raw and against Rollins at the pay-per-view. When did it stop working? Pretty much after his return from injury. His return was kind of not very well advertised, if I remember correctly. This was still like the area where I was like somewhat paying attention to wrestling, but also kind of not. It was something where you looked at it and it was like, this could have been done better. This could have been booked better. Whereas nowadays we look at returns and it's like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of cool. Like, look at Rusev's return. He just kind of showed up. It was a dumb storyline, yes, and the storyline we haven't seen recently because Mike Kanellis or Mike Bennett asked for his release. Is he going to get it? I have no idea. Possibly, possibly not. More than likely leaning towards not, but I think he would rather go elsewhere than to AEW. Particularly Ring of Honor to reform the Kingdom. Rejoin the Kingdom, which I would be very happy to see. Now, with Finn turning heel, it's kind of going to be a breath of fresh air because we've seen us wrestling fans who have nothing else better to do than watch hours upon hours of wrestling. Me. We know what the Prince Devitt character was in New Japan. He was the leader of Bullet Club. He was the founder of Bullet Club. He was a dick through and through. And he truly did not care. Now, I'm curious how the WWE will portray this version of Finn Balor because of the fact that they are PG, which is kind of an annoying thing to talk about in this day and age, which I don't mind a pro wrestling company being PG. But it's true, they are PG. You can't just have somebody going out there and cursing left, right, and center. Right now, that seems exclusively reserved for Bayley. But you look at it, this can work in NXT because of the talent there. I'm not saying the main roster is not talented. There's talent up on the main roster. If they use it correctly is another question that I don't want to get into right now. But the talent in NXT and the way they use it is so smart. And the best example I have of that is Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic. I think they were just truly going to put on like a random match, one NXT taping, and they're like, yeah, just go out there and put on a match. We'll talk to you afterwards and see what we can do. And Lee and Dijakovic went and tore it down. And they're like, okay, there's something here. We got it again and again. We're going to have it for a fourth time last week, but Roddy Strong got involved. Whereas, you look at that. It took two guys who were doing nothing and got them to be important. Same with Isaiah Swerve Scott. It's so hard not to say Shane Strickland. Same with Isaiah Scott. He wasn't doing too much, and to be fair, so were a lot of people at NXT still. Quotes around Performance Center recruits, technically. Partly because NXT is also really crowded. You look at that group of people from the breakout tournament. We've seen, since NXT's gone live, I believe we've seen Jordan Miles on TV. We've seen Isaiah Scott. We've seen Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes. We saw Boa. Boa's probably dead now because of Killian Dane. Who else was in that tournament? We haven't seen Dexter Lumis yet. And we haven't seen the other guy that I'm blanking. Oh God, what's his name? Joaquin Wilde, I believe is his name in NXT. It's the former DJZ. I just learned he is out due to retina surgery. So hopefully everything's going fine there and he'll be able to be back in the ring at some point here soon. I believe that was all the guys. Yeah, that was it. The only guys we've seen more than once, we've seen Cameron Grimes, I think all but 1 or 2 weeks so far. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's 1 or 2 weeks. He just had a hell of a match with Matt Riddle, including maybe my favorite spot of the year so far. The backflip wrist, what you call it? The backflip waist lock into a German suplex. That was a beautiful spot. That guy, Cameron Grimes, the former Trevor Lee of X Division fame and Impact Wrestling, he's going to be something in NXT. I'm curious as to what their plans are with him, because next week he's going against Tyler Bate. And I'm curious what that leads to. Is there going to be some sort of partnership between Grimes and Damian Priest while Bate and Dunn are there? Because the reason Trent Seven's not there is because he's kind of got an ongoing feud with Noam Dar over in NXT UK, which is the reason why Tegan Nox, I believe, is over in NXT, or North American NXT, because of the fact that she already lost to Kaylee Ray. I'm curious who's going to be the one to take the title for Kaylee Ray, because that's the problem. The NXT UK Women's Division is not deep, whereas the NXT Women's Division is super deep. I'd almost say, like, send some wrestlers from NXT North America over to NXT UK to help out. Specifically, Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green. But that's neither here nor there. Isaiah Scott, though, he's been on, I think, 2 weeks now. He challenged Roderick Strong for the North American title, and he was Breezango's partner last week. Or yesterday, technically, on Wednesday, and on this most recent version of NXT. Edition, not version. This is kind of helping the Full Sail crowd and the NXT viewers get a feel for who he is and what his allegiance is and what we should feel about this guy. Guys like me, we've seen Shane Strickland multiple times. We know how talented he is, yes. But now there's the NXT audience that's getting to see this. There's a WWE fan base that's getting to see this. Can't say the same for Boa because he pretty much just got destroyed by Cameron Grimes and Killian Dane. Grimes we're starting to get a character sense for, and that's why this is important, because you have all this talent, all these guys, and you don't really know like where their allegiance kind of lies. Like Grimes, even in his first 3 or so matches, you couldn't tell if he was a face or a heel. He beat who was it from the Cruiserweight Classic? Sean Maluda. He beat Maluda in like 6 seconds. He had a longer match against somebody else. I don't think it was anybody like major. And then he had a short match with Boa due to Killian Dane. This week he had his longest match. I think it was maybe 15 or so minutes against Matt Riddle. And after the match, you could kind of see, okay, this guy's a heel. This guy's a heel through and through. Because he ran away from Killian Dane, so it's like, oh, well, why is a heel running from a heel? Maybe he's just being smart, maybe something like that. But now it's like, okay, yeah, you can see now he's a heel. With Isaiah Scott, we're now saying, okay, he's going to be a face. And it's curious to see where he goes from here. And fans seem to love him already, which is fantastic. It's very interesting because there's still 6 guys from that tournament that we don't really know what direction they're going to go. Bronson Reed, I kind of have a sense of what might happen, because there's a couple other Australians and New Zealanders. I don't remember if he's Australian or New Zealand. He's from the Australia New Zealand area. I know that much. There's a couple other ones on the roster. Specifically, Brandon Virk. I think it's Brandon. It's either Brandon or Brendan Virk. Those two together could be really interesting. But we're getting into the characters and the face heel alignment of a lot of these guys. And like a lot of them can come from the independent scene, yes, and just be like, oh yeah, we're here now, cool. What's your character? What's your new thing? And that's the important reason for the face heel dynamic. Fans need to know, do we cheer this guy? Do we boo this guy? And a lot of times you don't want to come out to no reaction. You just come out to no reaction and it's like, it's not a nail in the coffin per se, but it's like fans just don't care about you. If you come out to no reaction, That's what should happen maybe your first few wrestling matches, maybe your first handful of matches. You come out to no reaction and it's like super quiet. You're out there just working and performing and you're starting to develop a fan base, yes, and that's what you want. You want them to either like you or hate you. And you go and watch pro wrestling and you have the people you like, you have the people you hate. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to like them. They want you to hate them. They want you to... The goal of professional wrestlers seems to be they want you to feel something. Love, hate, admiration, disgust, whatever it is in that huge spectrum for a professional wrestling fan. They want you to feel something like that. And that is what is kind of missing nowadays because everyone's just like, I just want to be a great pro wrestler. We have plenty of those. We don't need more. We need interesting character work. We need interesting things. Because right now, you look at NXT, you look at even the main event scene. Adam Cole, cheer. Tommaso Ciampa, cheer. Johnny Gargano, cheer. Finn Balor, who knows now, probably cheered still. We don't have a legit heel. Also, that's right now, I think that's the main event scene. There's not much there. Plus, you add in the fact that I think this time next year, we're talking about the Undisputed Era and Tommaso Ciampa being on the main roster. I'm also still not buying that Johnny Gargano is NXT for life. I'm not buying it yet. Because in 3 years, we could still see him on SmackDown. Who knows? What I'm saying is, they need characters. They need heels. They need something that's really missing from NXT right now. And the face-heel dynamic is so important in pro wrestling. The fans want to cheer the good guy and boo the bad guy. It's almost like going to see Avengers and you want to see Thanos get killed. You want to see Thanos die. And that's what you eventually get, yes. But you look at it, this is also an interesting kind of way. You have people that like the bad guy. People like Thanos, which is totally understandable. Like in pro wrestling, even though Adam Cole and Undisputed Era are heels, you still like them. You don't have to hate them just because they're heels. You can align yourself with the heels, which is totally fine. That's your opinion as a professional wrestling fan. It's that simple. You need the face-heel dynamic, and you can pick whichever side you want. It doesn't matter if you like seeing the goody two-shoes get through the rivalry and get that big win. You don't mind if the heel goes and mucks everything up and cheats to win. You just enjoy watching the product that you're given. And that is what you want, yes. But the wrestlers also want you to have a reaction in some way. And you can see sometimes in their face when they get that reaction, they're like, okay, that's what I wanted. Which is really interesting to see. And it's something I think we need to see a little more in pro wrestling because we have good wrestlers, yes, but there's not really many characters. The best character going in professional wrestling right now, there's a couple. The two that spring to mind, the Rainmaker and Kazuchika Okada, and the Fiend with Bray Wyatt. Those are maybe the best characters going in professional wrestling right now. There's no other real character kind of things in other wrestlers. It's just, I'm a good pro wrestler. Cheer me or boo me. Give us a reason to pick. This is essentially just a rant episode about me complaining that there's just too many good professional wrestlers who have no character. It's something that can be addressed easily, and I say easily, it's tough to develop a new character overnight, yes. But you can develop that character at some point and then have it transition into TV and have it work. Or in the local independent scene. Who knows, wherever, any professional wrestlers or independent wrestlers listen to this podcast. But that's all I got time for today. That was a very ranty one. That went a lot longer than I thought I would. Which is fine by me because I've got to record another one of these in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I got to record another one in 5 days. And I already have a topic picked out for that. It deals with AEW. I will say that much. It deals with the other side of the Wednesday Night Wars that I don't cover personally. Because I am the designated NXT guy for All Things Combat. But like I said, that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening to me rant about the face-heel dynamic of professional wrestling for the most part. And as always, as I end these episodes, you can follow me on Twitter at ChiroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. you can follow All Things Combat, which is a website that I write for where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. I know UFC 244 is coming up. We're going to have a couple things about that. There's a couple boxing matches coming up soon that are kind of big, I think. I don't know much about boxing. Sorry, Josh, if you listen to this. Of course, we have Crown Jewel coming up here at the end of the month. I don't know if we're going to do live coverage. I don't know if we'll have a prediction contest. I won't be participating in it. If we do, I will be sitting that one out, partly because I won't really have time to do it here in the next couple days. We'll maybe have something. I'll have more information about that on Tuesday. You'll hear it on the day after Halloween, so it won't matter. What am I forgetting to call out and shout out? Oh, right. I write for the Cauldron. I had the paper right in front of me. That's an idiotic move on my part. I write for the Cauldron over at Cleveland State University. I am the sports editor. I recently had an article come out for the new issue where I talk about the men's soccer team in contention for the Horizon League Championship. A link to that will be in the description below. A link to also the All Things Combat merch store where we sell hoodies, hats, t-shirts, jackets, polos, button-downs, mouse pads. I literally just looked over my side and I'm like, what do I have? A mouse pad. There we go. We saw those. We actually do, which is kind of funny. Is there anything else I'm forgetting to plug? What am I forgetting to plug? I feel like there's something I should plug. I think that's it. Well, that's it. Sweet. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you like what you heard, hit the like button. Leave comments down below. Oh, right, that's what it was. End of the year lists. If you have any recommendations for those, feel free to leave them in the comments below. As I said, I am doing top 10 men's wrestlers of 2019, top 10 women's wrestlers of 2019, top 10 tag teams of 2019, top 5, right now top 5, it could become a top 10, top 5 disappointments of pro wrestling in 2019, and top 10 comeback years where a wrestler had a down 2018 and bounced back to have a good 2019. Anybody in that those categories, leave a comment. Also, Token is also doing some end of the year articles. Top 10 pay-per-view matches of the year, top 10 matches of the year, or top 10 pay-per-views of the year, not 10 pay-per-view matches. Top 10 pay-per-views of the year, top 10 matches of the year, top 10 moments of the year, and possibly top 10 breakout stars and top 10 surprises, or top 5s, or something along those lines. Send any and all recommendations to me, or Token if you want. His Twitter is Token0830. We're all ears. We listen to a lot of the feedback you guys give us, whether it's this podcast, whether it's on the website, anything and everything you guys want to give feedback on. We're all ears. So leave a comment down below if you want. If you enjoy what you hear, think about hitting that subscribe button. I'm almost at 10 subscribers, guys. I'm almost there. Unless I can't count, I'm already at 10. I am making this a lot longer than I intended it to be on an outro. I apologize for that right now. That's not what I want. 8 subscribers right now. Tell everybody you know about this channel. Tell any pro wrestling fans that you know to subscribe. I could get 10 by next week for all I know, which would be very nice. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you next week, technically, even though I'll be a few days in the past. Thank you guys for listening. See you then.